No, I've never worn a beard on the show, just a mustache.
Just a
Oh,
mustache.
right, of course, sorry.
Have
Yeah.
you seen the show?
No.
I think you'd like it.
Welcome once again to another Newsweek conversation. We're here with Tony Shalhoub. Welcome.
Thank you.
Marin Hinkle. Welcome.
Sure.
Two stars of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Before I get going, we have a crack research team at Newsweek, and I have seen so much material from you guys. It's
Sorry.
incredible. What I'm impressed in, I'm impressed that you're here, and I'm impressed you're still prepared to do it. So I have two questions. One, what question, I'd love you to both answer independently, what question you ask most often, and what question do you never want to be asked again?
Well, I'll dive in.
Yes, go ahead.
Because I did that series Monk for 8 seasons,
Yeah.
and I until Maisel, I really kind of became identified with primarily with that role.
Yeah.
People would always ask, are you like that character? Are you, did they base that on you?
Yeah.
That was the question that I
Got asked
most often.
Yeah.
And the question I never want to hear again is, would you like a wipe?
Oh, yeah.
That was funny the first 100,000 times, and then it kind of got a little stale.
All right. And how about you?
I think, I've done a lot of theater, and so usually in the talkbacks there, people raise their hand and ask wonderful questions. But one that they often ask is how hard is it to memorize your lines? That thing.
Oh, right.
Yes.
But I have to say, getting older, it's a lot harder than it was then. Question I may not want to be asked again. I think I have to say I like all questions. I'm like that person that gets excited by anything. I get very nervous. I'm like, you'll see, I'll be sweating by the end of this, and Tony will have to pick me up because I'll be such a neurotic mess.
Okay,
So
well, that's
anyway,
good.
that's hard.
So I can't do that.
Yeah, right.
That question.
Sorry.
Okay.
I just
That's
don't know
actually
what.
fine.
I just
Well,
don't
this
know
was
what-
fun.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so what I'd love to do is I'm going to start with you, Marin,
Sure.
and just sort of do a little bit of how you got to be where you are. Because one of the things I discovered was, I think it might be true that if it were not for a broken ankle, you'd be a ballerina.
Yeah, although you know what, I didn't really have great feet to begin with, and you probably all know that dancers, it's really significant to have extraordinary turnout and point and all that.
Yeah.
So and they're not flat exactly, but they're not great. But I did break my ankle, and
But you must have been at high level.
I
in order.
had gone to the New York City Ballet School, and the Boston Ballet had an apprentice program, so I was on a route, and I had very academic parents, and I think they were just feeling so tortured by the fact that I was going to be in a profession that was based so much on just sort of physical life, and they didn't understand it really.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that when I broke my ankle they were like, yay, but there was a little bit of that.
But they were like,
yeah, they were like, yay. Yeah.
Her father actually broke her ankle.
Oh, there was a little banana
Just a
out
little-
in there.
Yeah. So I was in mourning for a long time. I would listen to ballet on records, and I'd listen to beautiful classical music and sort of dance with my hands and pour tears and be melancholy. And then finally I realized that there was another route that was slightly similar, which was performing still, but now using words.
Right.
So it wasn't until I was a bit older then, not that I didn't speak until I was 16. I did actually speak, but I didn't while I was dancing. Obviously you don't talk. So, but then I kind of, for a number of years, it's funny, I went to Brown, and so I started sort of doing theater there. It took a lot to get cast because there were really extraordinary actors there at the time, like Laura Linney or Tim Blake Nelson, wonderful, wonderful people. And everything I was doing was kind of like a ballet. I was moving my head as I talked and moving my hands. And there's a line like, "Mama, am I pretty?" And she was she just was so sweet. She just kind of was like, you can breathe and just be simple and not necessarily move as a dancer any longer, But she was so
But I can still see that grace
Oh, I
that
know,
you have. You go right into that.
I don't think it's so good. But anyway, so is that answer your question? Yeah, so I headed out into the world of using words.
That did. So you got, so a lot of actors just sort of go into acting, but you have, I mean, you have 2 degrees, an undergraduate
Yeah.
degree and a graduate degree from NYU in acting. How did you go from that academic situation to getting your first roles?
Yeah, so then circling back to my parents being very nervous dressed in their suits there. My mom was a judge, my dad was a dean of a college. I grew up outside Boston, and so when I did tell them in my junior year that I was also born in Africa, my parents were in the Peace Corps, so there was a program actually at the very city I was born in, Dar es Salaam, that Brown had, or there was a theater program I wanted to do, and I had to sort of break the hard news that I wasn't going to go to Tanzania. I was actually going to go. I wanted to go, if it was okay, to a theater program. And so we went to visit this place. And my parents were dressed in their suit. And I remember people were honestly going like, peanut butter, blah, blah, blah. And like my mother and father were rolling their eyes. And so I did just say to them, give me this semester of trying it. And that led to getting cast in a summer theater job, which led to coming back. And then I did get into NYU. And for me, I needed that degree, and then when I graduated, I didn't get an agent and manager right away. I had like $80,000 of loans instead. But basically, I really was like the tortoise and not the hare about my career. I wanted to be, I was slow and steady.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Everyone gets their start completely differently.
Differently, yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Tony, I got some stats here. So you've won 4 Broadway Tony Awards. You've been nominated for 4, you've won 1. You've been nominated for 11 Emmys, won an incredible 5,
Amazing.
if you include the daytime. You've been nominated for 6 Golden Globes, you've won 1, and you've been nominated for 9 Screen Actors Guild Awards, you've won 4. It's just incredible.
Wait, a Grammy thing too, did you?
You did.
That was
He does have a Grammy, even
no,
though he's
no,
not
I
a musician.
don't. I do not have a Grammy.
Oh, you got nominated
for
You
a
got
Grammy
nominated.
for reading a children's book.
Yeah, that's right. So
That doesn't exactly.
Would you get? I saw that one. I left that one out, but thank you.
No, sorry, I just have to
Thanks a lot.
always.
So my question is the Tony Award your favorite?
Well, like your children, you love them all equally.
Right.
Yeah, they were all very, exciting and unexpected, and it's interesting with awards because they don't really have a lot to do with the work we do.
Yeah.
They really kind of come from outside,
Yeah.
and it's very exciting. I think Marin will vouch for this too. It's exciting on the day and sort of the whole build up and the hype of it, and then when it's done, you either come away with the statue or without the statue,
right.
And then you go back to work, or hopefully, or unless you're unemployed. So you know what I mean. Life goes on, the work goes on, and then that sort of that little small victory, just sort of becomes part of your
history,
part of your past.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to talk a little bit about Monk, even though you said some of the things.
Okay.
I did throw most of the questions away, but I got one.
Okay.
So I loved that show. That came at a very, very busy time in my life. My kids were born in 2000 and 2003, and that movie came out right then, and I was traveling all the time.
Yes.
I loved it so much that, do you remember those little iPods? They had video iPods.
Sure.
And the screen was like the size of a matchbox.
Yes.
So
That's the best way to watch my work.
I was so obsessed. I had no time. The only time I had was on planes, and I watched pretty much all eight seasons on that little thing.
Yeah, I mean, people just kind of, they sort of became obsessed with that show. But if you're talking about people who really suffer from the disorder, we did not intend this when we started this show. God knows, we were not trying to be the learning channel.
Right.
But
you did a bunch of things.
We found out that people who have family members or people themselves who suffered from this disorder really related to this character.
Yeah.
And they felt less self-conscious.
Yeah.
And because the whole idea was that this character, even though he had all of these problems, that he could contribute to the greater good. And
he did every episode.
Yes, he did.
Many of the characters you have played have had comic elements to them, including Monk and even Mr. Wiseman on
Abe.
Yeah. Do you sort of seek that out, or in the roles that you're getting, or are you as opportunistic as you've encouraged everyone else to be?
I don't really think about it. I mean, I've done dramatic roles, certainly. I don't. As actors, people always talk about, the decisions you've made in your career.
Right,
Not like
no.
It's like something comes along and you grab it. You know? Don't you? Don't
I
you
agree.
think?
Right.
It's not like number. Should I take 12 or should I take 17? No. You
just.
Things are presented to you, or you will audition for them, and they either spark your interest or they don't, or you feel that you can do something different with them. But sometimes you just do a job because you need a job, and you try to make the best of it.
Well, your timing is unbelievable. I've seen you play with timing in your roles.
Well, thank you. I always thought one of my favorite elements of Monk, of doing that kind of role, was that the writers gave me, it's rare in television where you get to play comedic stuff and really dark, dramatic stuff back to back, from one moment to the next. And they gave me that again and again, and they kept broadening the range of that. What was kind of allowable in our universe. Some episodes were lighter, maybe a little frothier. Some were very dark, and where the comedy was minimal, and some had a great balance of both. But oh man, the freedom to move from one extreme to the other was kind of liberating, and it felt like we were doing something brave.
Yeah, you were. Let's talk about the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Before we do, have either of you ever done stand-up?
I think I didn't do it on purpose. I mean.
Oh, you have?
No, I did. I was. I don't know how it happened. I did it. I was asked to do a routine, and I can't remember what the event was, but I got up in a club, and it was terrifying.
Oh yeah,
terrifying. And I think I bombed pretty badly.
So the chemistry that you guys have together on the show is amazing. Did you sort of work on that beforehand?
Yes.
Did you work on that together? Did you just were you hired independently and you came together? How did that?
We were hired independently.
Mm-hmm. You were hired before I auditioned because
really?
Yes, you didn't. Well, this wonderful man didn't have to audition. I did a lot of auditioning for this role, and each time I would watch movies and see TV that you've been in, and I kind of conjured up the idea that I could possibly be your wife, and it was kind of. You
mean because I'm so much older? Is that what you mean?
Because I believe sometimes that to create the world of what you want to be in, back to my education stuff, you kind of want to. That's like doing archaeological digging or something, and so. And I'd seen you on stage a number of times, and that is probably my most favorite stuff, is to see, if you haven't all seen Tony on stage, have you guys? He's unreal. It's unreal what happens. I mean, it's unreal what happens.
I'd like to do a monologue for you.
Do some stand-up.
I brought a couple of short.
It's because I'm just going to speak about how much I love it, because what you just said is so true. The idea that you understand what it means to be comedic and then to drop 30 seconds later into the most sort of spiritually connected, soulful thing. You have a heart that you wear that, I almost feel embarrassed saying this because, in a show you never want to say something too much that makes the person self-conscious, so I've never really complimented him this much because I never want to, but we have 5 months off before we have to go back to work. So I'm allowed to say all this, and then you will forget it, hopefully, because we're old and we forget things. So anyway, but you're not old though, I am. But anyway, I do think I should stop talking now. But our chemistry, I think, comes out of just enjoying each other. I mean, but that
Yeah,
I didn't
I think so. I mean,
I
I just delight in everything that Marin does. We just, I think it's a tribute to Amy and Dan Palladino who write this material and cast this ensemble. And I think this was just, I could not have imagined a better a partner, a better person, a better foil, a better spouse on this show. It just clicked, I think, from the first moment. There's something about that Marin brings, especially, this is true of Rachel too, but especially of Marin, she fits this time period so perfectly.
So let's sort of pick on that, the timing bit, because it seems like the show has relevance today, even though the timing is yesterday.
We're always surprised at how broad the demographic is. After just 2 seasons, we've only aired 18 episodes of this show. It's, and somehow it's become iconic already. I quite understand that, but it's plays. Well, it's Amazon, so it plays everywhere. We were doing interviews with this guy from India, a couple of days ago. Apparently it's big in India. You wouldn't think that a show that basically takes place on the Upper West Side of New York. I actually in the beginning thought, well, that's our demographic, the people that live within 4 blocks of Zane.
Don't go below 14th, right?
But it turns out
you exceeded that bar. Yeah,
it crosses age, groups.
Yep.
And, so it's. I wish we knew what it was.
Yeah, it's hard when you're in something to understand exactly. Well, do you agree? Like, I'm not quite sure why it hit, but I'm happy to have the job.
Yeah.
I think the writing is so damn smart. And I think people enjoy, talking about being a mother, so I have a 16-year-old son, and there wasn't a part of me at all when I read this pilot that ever thought my kid would like this show. He hardly likes anything, you know what I mean? But I didn't think MAISEL would be a world, and honestly, he says, and I kind of believe this because he doesn't always like to necessarily flatter his mom, but he's like, I think this is my favorite show. And I can't figure out exactly why, but I think it's because he fancies, he doesn't want to be dumbed down to, right? He doesn't want to have a joke that's just catering to be funny. And you know how Amy and Dan, right? They move through it. It's not going to be there to be spoon-fed. And they are not sentimentalists either. Things are beautiful and it's rosy sometimes, and there's dance numbers that make everybody either clap or cry, whatever, but they don't want us to be syrupy.
Yep.
If he and I get a little too emotional or something, Amy's not going to do that take, usually. You know what I mean? She doesn't want to see something that is going to milk it. And I think that's really appreciated by our audience.
It's really when at its heart, I think everything you said is absolutely spot on. But I think at its heart, it's really a very contemporary show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It takes place in a time period, but it lives in the present.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the things that you can do as a result, let me know if you agree, is because it's set in the past, you can be more exaggerated in the rules that you're breaking.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you did it today, you'd have to be a little more PC and a little.
Absolutely, we have we're protected by the time period.
Correct.
So we can.
So you can be inappropriate,
Yeah, they can be irreverent and they can be politically incorrect.
Right.
And and it's refreshing, I think, in that sense, because we're. In today's writing, mostly, there's a paranoia about, can I do that? Can I get away with that? Can I show that? Whereas we have kind of carte blanche.
Yeah.
Clever.
There's a
moment.
Clever. There's a moment in the first episode that you all hopefully will watch soon in a couple days. I'm not supposed to say it. I'll just say this. I'm going to keep it so vague. I'm going to keep it very vague.
This
very vague.
will air
after. Perfect, great. So I can say I can say anything now. But so Rachel, I'm not going to describe it too much because I don't want to give anything away. But do you know Rachel walks into a big event wearing an extraordinary dress, and then at one point turns around and sort of shows off her back? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
She's at a USO show.
Oh, good, yeah. But I didn't know if I was
in front of 800 soldiers.
Yeah. And she does it in a way where she's kind of selling herself, kind of. And it does something to me as a woman where I'm like, oh, Jesus, why is she doing that? And then I think, but in that time, that would have been a moment that meant something to those soldiers, right? Because they're all applauding and oohing and cackling. And last night on the red carpet, one of the photographers said to me, "Can you turn around?" And I was like, oh, and I was confused a little bit. And then there was a publicist that was nearby, and she was like, "You don't have to." And then I was like, well, maybe that makes a good picture? I don't know. But all these complicated feelings were happening. And then I was like, why am I on the red carpet anyway? I don't even want any pictures taken. Do you know what I mean? I'm seriously, and I just want to go to the film. And why didn't I wear jeans? And why didn't I just, and that's the way why did I even put makeup on? And oh my God, you know what I mean? Like all these complicated women question things were happening. And then I saw what Rachel's character does. And I went, it happened then, it happens now. Will it happen forever? So anyway, that was exactly what you said. It's like we can sort of look back in a different way. And Tony pointed this out today, and Michael, we had some interviews today, pointed it out too, and Amy says this all the time. She wanted to write something without the damn cell phones or without any kind of technology in the way that we all use it now that way. Yeah. And she wanted to not, she wanted to have people talk to each other, and that's another thing.
That's my favorite part of this show, working on it and seeing it. That, people just don't open a laptop or, I find that so refreshing. Yeah. It's just, I just can breathe.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.